So I'll be reading my comparative essay about the poem If by Rudyard Kipling and Courage by Anne Sexton. The poems If by Rudyard Kipling and Courage by Anne Sexton are extraordinary reads about one's life filled with courageous acts. If is written in a form of paternal advice to a child, while Courage is written in a way to convey different ways in which a person shows courage throughout their life. Both display a deep meaning of what it is like to be courageous in our lives and the outstanding results that come afterwards. These two poems are immensely teachable and portray many different yet the same themes. Rudyard discusses ways on how to be an ideal human, and its themes are more related to coming of age, identity, and the journey you follow throughout your teenage years. Although I would say that this poem is for all ages, as everyone has room for improvement. Sexton, on the other hand, wrote the poem in a way to represent a person's entire lifetime and the bravery they faced. For example, in the beginning of stanza 1, she talks about a child's first step, but by stanza 4, she goes deeper into the theme of how everyone faces trials in their lifetime, as well as how they get over them. The main idea in these two wonderful pieces of poetry are personal growth, similar courageous acts, and their storylines. Personal growth is displayed in both poems in a unique way. Sexton describes in her poem that everyone faces trials in their lifetime and how we grow after dealing with these hardships. Rudyard gives us a set of instructions on how to behave throughout our lives and become stronger. You may ask, how are they similar? Well, in Sexton's poem, the line, "If you have endured a great despair, then you did it all alone," relates to Rudyard's line, "If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same." These lines are similar because they both express the courage of facing hardships throughout one's lifetime. Knowing you face these trials in your life will give you a slight sense of pride and, most importantly, growth. As we grow, we learn from our mistakes and the situations we face in our lives. They can range from being very small to extremely heroic acts that make us stronger day by day. If we can meet with despair and sadness, especially on our own, this shows a great deal of courage, bravery, and independence. These ideas are vastly explained in both poems and show personal growth when meeting with tough trials in our lives. These poems portray many different courageous acts one can accomplish. Some include the same idea but are written in different ways. Rudyard's line, "Or being hated, don't give way to hating," and Sexton's line, "You drank their acid and concealed it," are two very similar lines. At first they might not seem like it, but they both include the themes of hating and bullying. Rudyard explains through his line that if we are being hated or bullied by someone for any reason, we should never allow it to get to us. Instead, we should swallow our pride and ignore it. In Sexton's line, by drinking their acid, she meant to swallow their words, suck in your gut, and again, don't give way to those who hate on you. Rather than being mad over it, you must know you cannot stoop as low as the people hating on you or bullying you. Both poems are very similar in this area and repeat several of the same situations that require courage or bravery in our lives. As mentioned previously, Rudyard sticks to a more condensed timeline revolving around teenage years. But as for Sexton, she portrays a person's entire lifetime in a single poem. They slightly differentiate, but if we look closely, their ideas are similar. In Rudyard's poem, the line, "You'll be a man, my son," and the line, "When death opens the door, you'll put on your carpet slippers and stride out," are hinting the same idea. This gives us the finishing touch of their poems. And if we look closely in Rudyard's poem, he gives us many ways we can be better people and always have courage throughout our lives. The line from his poem is him indicating to his son, or to us, that he's ready to face the world if he lives by the examples that he provided in his poem. In Sexton's poem, it's sort of indicating the same thing. I also want to point out that she uses the pronoun you a lot in the poem to summon us in the poem and really imagine the poem like in our heads. When reading the poem, think of it as you're providing information to someone about all the difficult stages in your life that required courage, and then striding out, leaving all these great examples of courage to someone to prepare them for the future. In other words, we can say that Sexton, just like Rudyard, is preparing us for the trials ahead of us and to make sure that we face them with courage. Both poets did an astonishing job of showing these ideas in their poems. Rudyard and Sexton use outstanding ways to show their themes in their poems. Courage in general is a very rich topic and isn't only shown by standing up for a friend or taking that first step when you begin learning to walk. It is much more than that. Taking that step forward by standing up for a friend will lead you to make strong choices in the future and stand against injustice, as shown in the poem Courage. Having a head on your shoulders and continue following what you know is right, even from a young age, will lead you to know how to keep your virtue wherever you are, as shown in the poem It. Examining these two poems and looking into the bigger picture here would help a person out immensely. The examples that are used should be taken into consideration by everyone and applying these rules to their lives to make them stronger. Personally, I really enjoyed looking deeper and studying these two poems, as well as looking into their similarities and differences. Nowadays, I haven't been coming across poetry this deep and meaningful, so I would recommend these to anyone who's feeling down. These two pieces of art can motivate you to keep going and face anything in your life with courage. Thank you.